Hurricane Rafael is spinning in the Gulf of Mexico. Good Thursday evening, I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. Taking a look at the entire Atlantic, we've been watching some disturbed weather here in the areas there, the Northeast Caribbean. It is possible we could see some development in the Caribbean over the next week or two. Don't be surprised if we get another hurricane coming out in the Western Caribbean, so keep an eye on it even after Rafael is gone. But on the left side of the screen here is Hurricane Rafael. Popped out a well-defined eye, so it's a solid Category 2 storm. The great thing about it is that it should kind of mill around out here and have a slow demise in the Gulf of Mexico, but it could still have some impacts. Here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center as of 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on Hurricane Rafael. Rafael was at 24.7 north, 86.2 west. Winds are 105 miles per hour, so like I said, it's a solid Category 2 hurricane. Made landfall as a Category 3 major hurricane in western Cuba yesterday. It's since moved out into the Gulf of Mexico. Now it's slowed down, moving west-northwest at 9. The forecast track has it remaining a hurricane until about Saturday night, Sunday, and then weakening from wind shear, dry air entrainment possible. We could have cooler waters weakening, and it's a very unfavorable conditions in the Gulf of Mexico because it's November, not exactly the prime time in the Gulf for hurricanes. Nevertheless, look at this track here. It could really start to pull to the south, and that could allow it to move into the Bay of Campeche. Now, whether or not it ends up curling back to the north, or whether it kind of buries itself into Mexico or dissipates, we just don't know, but everybody in the Western Gulf should keep an eye on it just in case. There's the wind field. Again, it's not impacting land right now. No hurricane watches or warnings, no tropical storm watches or warnings. Hopefully we won't need it if this system stays out in the middle of the Gulf. Like I said before in previous updates, it's very rare to have a storm get into the Gulf and never hit land, but if they have unfavorable conditions, that could happen. Here's the infrared satellite imagery. Very impressive. This thing's trying to become a Category 3 hurricane again. That gray blob there, the cold cloud tops on the northern side of the eye as the hurricane spins there straight towards the west. Tiny little thing, but nevertheless holding its own or even strengthening a bit. As far as the track, these are the European ensembles. They want to dance it around here in the Gulf of Mexico. Very, very weak over the next few days. Some of them get close to the Mexican coast. Others take it very weak up into Louisiana. But it wouldn't be a Category 2 or 3 hurricane anymore. It'd probably be a tropical storm by then if it did strike the Gulf Coast. The GFS, some of them have it striking the Gulf Coast, but they like this loop-de-loop as well right down here. And again, that's all because of ridges of high pressure. If the ridging builds in, we could see this system kind of get forced to the south. And especially if it's weaker, we wouldn't have to deal with it. But again, it's just too early to tell where the system will head. But certainly an interesting November hurricane. Water temperatures much cooler than they were even when Milton was around a month or so ago, as we saw Hurricane Milton slam into areas there of Florida, and of course Hurricane Helene devastated areas of the Big Bend. Much cooler waters right near the coast, so again, it has the hot waters against it. Right now it's in hot water, but it will be heading into progressively cooler waters as time goes on. And then right here, look at this wind shear. This thing is right on the edge of favorable conditions to its south, down here, and very high wind shear to its north. And that wind shear and the cooler waters will eventually allow this thing to weaken, but it's not there yet. There's the satellite imagery, and again, look at that lonely Rafael, all by himself, very lonely there in the Gulf of Mexico. Nice looking little hurricane. It's rare that we get a strong Category 2 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico and nobody cares about it, but it's because we know that Rafael is going to die very soon. The key messages with Hurricane Rafael: number one, it will cause swells. They're going to propagate, especially right now with it as a Category 2 hurricane, and that could cause life-threatening surf and rip currents along the Gulf Coast all the way through the weekend and into next week. And secondly, it is forecast to move slowly over the south-central Gulf, and interest in the southern and southwest Gulf should monitor the progress of it. It is still a hurricane and still something to watch. Look at the way that eye popped out today. Boom, right there. Looking a lot better. Very impressive. So it's kind of fighting this wind shear that's heading in this direction, but right now it seems to be getting ventilated a little bit to the north by that shear, and it still has some pretty warm waters down there near Cuba and the Yucatan Channel. So again, An interesting November hurricane slammed into Cuba, caused some problems. Now it's over the Gulf of Mexico. We'll watch it kind of mill around and dance around out here, and we'll see what happens. I'm Mike Nasa with the latest on Hurricane Rafael, and I'll talk to you next time.